and good evening, Pakistan. I hope all of you are doing really well. You're all hale and hearty, safe and sound. You are enjoying the winters with your loved ones. You're taking care of each other. Just remember to wear layers, drink plenty of warm fluids. There is, like I said in my previous show, a nasty bug going around. So just take care of your loved ones, of adults and young ones alike. Today we are celebrating, I like to call it celebration. We are celebrating the sixth episode of Vibing with Wakas, a show about Pakistan, for Pakistan, and by Pakistan. Like I said, no matter where you are from, what line of work you're in, as long as you're working for the people in this country or the country itself to make it better in some shape, way, or form, you are Pakistani at heart. Today we have another really exciting guest with us, and I am frankly a little scared because normally whenever lawyers come to your mind, you are like, I hope I don't get to meet one in my life. But Hassan, and Hassan, I'm actually going to start with a brief introduction of you and then we're going to go into it. Hassan is a practicing High Court lawyer and he's practicing in Islamabad, Rawalpindi, and Karachi. He is also a law teacher and he teaches English jurisprudence, EU law, contract law, and law of trust to external students in Pakistan and abroad. But this is the what I like to call the boring side of things, because this is something that makes you money, right? And that's true across the board. But what he actually does, which I really like and which I actually want to talk about, is he has a YouTube channel which is called Kanuni Hakook. So this is a shameless plug for that as well. So please subscribe to that. He disseminates legal knowledge. He dispels misinformation through that. I've actually listened to, ever since he told me about it, I've listened to a couple of videos and they're amazing content and we're going to discuss those as well. Yes. And then he also provides pro bono services to the masses, especially those who actually cannot afford to hire quality lawyers. So first of all, Assalamu alaikum, welcome to the show.
Walaikum salam, Wakas. It's great to be on your show, and I'm really excited to start the show with you. And thank you for an amazing introduction.
Okay, I'm humble. So I have to tell you, when I was doing my research, I like to do as much research as I can, and I talk to my friends and I tell them, okay, what kind of questions do you want me to ask people, and what do you know this person? Because Islam is a very small, closely knit society, and somehow everyone knows everyone. And I've done 6 or 7 shows, and never has the response been so overwhelmingly positive. Hey, I know Hassan. Hey, I know Hassan. Hey, he's an old friend. Hey, I know him through this. I'm like, dude, how many Hassans are there? In fact, most interestingly, the other day in my office, I was actually doing some research on the content that we were going to discuss, and a colleague of mine came up to me and like, what are you doing? And I said, I'm actually looking up this lawyer, and he's doing this, and this. He said, are you talking about Hassan Durrani? I said, yes, how do you know? He said, he's my older brother. So, so Abdullah, your brother is on the show.
Yeah.
So, Hassan, my first question to you right off the bat is, and this actually comes from this childhood movie that I used to, that actually everyone watched, is Legally Blonde.
Legally Blonde.
Right?
Yeah.
And there was this very famous quote by Aristotle that actually is the theme for that movie is, law is reason free from passion.
Yeah.
Right? So, is law reason free from passion?
The answer to this varies because law in itself is an entity in its
Right.
own, right?
Right.
A lot of people confuse laws with morals. A lot of people talk about laws rationality and all that. So basically, there are two schools of thoughts that exist. If you are a naturalist, you
Right.
will have a more moralistic view towards the law, that all the laws ought to be in accordance with morality.
Right.
And if there's any law that is against morality, that ought not to be considered to be law at all. So supposedly, all the laws that were made in Hitler's regime, they were flowing from the sovereign, they were flowing from a determinate body, they were orders given to the officials, and those were being executed. Although all those laws were against morality, they were against the norms, moral norms that are held within the world. But yet, they had this status of law. So I am a philosophy teacher. I teach philosophy also. So in philosophy, what we try to teach is that laws and morality are two different things, because morality is something that is completely subjective. What might be moral to you might not be moral to me, and hence is the case with differing societies within the world. So If you're a naturalist, you will have a moralistic view towards the law. And if you are a positivist, then in that scenario, law will have no relevance with the morality at all as long as it is flowing from a determinate source, as long as there is a superior laying down those laws. So, as long as law satisfies that criteria,
Right.
it will have the legitimacy of law. Now, the question remains of rationality. Obviously, all the laws have to be rational. They
Right.
have to be, because us humans, we're different from the other species in the world because of the reason that we have this ability to reason,
Right.
to distinguish between right and wrong. So law basically serves that purpose in the society, that it provides the rationale on the basis of which we can reason. We can distinguish good from the bad. So yeah.
So in that sense, I'm going to circle back to rationality.
Yeah.
Who gets to decide what's rational? Isn't that inherently subjective as well then?
Okay, so when it comes to law, whenever you are adjudicating upon something,
Right.
whenever you're looking at the legality of something,
Right.
you have to put yourself in a third party's shoe.
Right.
That you are a fly on the wall looking at the situation. You will neither be the plaintiff, you will neither be the defendant,
defendant, yeah.
but you will be a third party looking at the transaction, and then you have to determine the legitimacy, legality of that transaction from this reasonable person's perspective.
Right.
That is usually used in civil laws, that is also used in criminal laws. But then again, like, when it comes to criminal laws, your subjective intention is also relevant, because a crime cannot, an offense cannot be said to be committed
Exactly.
unless there is this mens rea, which is the mental element,
The mental element.
within the criminal laws. But
Right.
civil laws, they vary, because civil laws, the subjectivity, the subjective element of mind is not that crucial. You look at the situation in civil laws from a third person's perspective, which could be detached objectivity. That's called objective stance towards a legal
Right.
situation. That could be defendant's subjectivity. That could be detached objectivity is basically fly on the wall.
Fly on the wall.
It could be plaintiff subjectivity, it could be defendant's objectivity. So it varies whenever the judges are adjudicating upon certain legal issue.
Right.
They can put themselves either in a situation where they're completely detached from the situation, or they can put themselves in the shoes of the plaintiff or the defendant. So it varies situation to situation, because law is not as black and white as people portray it to be. It is way too complex, and like once you get into the technicalities of the law, then you get to understand that from which perspective you're viewing the situation.
Right.
So it varies.
So again, honing in on 2 points that you just mentioned is that law is not black or white.
100%.
And plus,
100%.
coupled with that, the fact that there is this, I don't want to say moral crisis, but this concept of morality in the law, that is a prevailing sentiment across
Yeah.
across everything, every other case. And I just want to connect it with the religious side of things.
Yeah.
And this is not going to get controversial, right? So,
Because whatever we're talking about over here is from a legal perspective.
It's a legal perspective,
We're not
right,
religious
yeah.
scholars.
Exactly.
We're not religious,
Exactly.
scholars basically
Exactly,
that are
exactly.
adjudicating upon something. So we can talk about the legality of anything pretty much from legal perspective.
from a legal perspective. But
Yeah.
just to pick your brains on it, okay, this is just a point of discussion that in terms of the black and white of things, people would actually argue that, and this is something that I'm pretty sure you've actually been a burden of these jokes. Lawyers are liars, and then if you're a lawyer down the line, you have to actually defend someone who you know is perhaps not telling the truth, or he is a culprit, and you have to defend them. Some stuff like that, and then people say that if you do that, and if you win the case, it sets the precedent, and that precedent can actually be used for future cases, and it can help other culprits get off. So, how do you actually reconcile that inner morality versus the objectivity of law?
Okay, so this is a question that I get asked a lot.
Right.
And this is a dilemma that all of us lawyers face within our profession.
Right.
When it comes to law, it's mostly about the interpretation of the law.
Interpretation.
Right? So two parties are going to the courts. One of them is adopting a certain interpretation. The other party is adopting another interpretation. Supposedly, if there is a law in the society that vehicles are not allowed
Right.
in the park. Now the question of interpretation is, what are vehicles? How would you interpret it? Some people would say that vehicles only include any vehicle with a
Four-wheeler
motor
or
or
a
something.
three-wheeler or
So
something.
some other people would also say it includes carts,
Yeah.
tricycles, bicycles, pretty much everything. So now there's a distinction of the interpretation that each side is adopting. One side is saying that vehicles should only include cars, motorcycles, and all that. The other side is saying that like it should include like carts, tricycles, bicycles, pretty much everything.
Right.
So like in the court, when you go to argue a case, neither side is right or wrong. It's the question of the interpretation of the law.
How you
That
interpret
how can the law be interpreted?
Right.
So us lawyers come in with different interpretations, and we assist the courts. We're officers of the courts, right? We go to the court. We sort of like put forward our interpretation of the law based on the judicial precedents, based on the cases that have already been decided, based on the language used in the statute and the law.
Right.
And now the varying techniques of interpretation, either you can take a literal interpretation of something and interpret it as it is,
Right.
or you can take a purposive interpretation where you look at the purpose of the statute.
purpose of the statute.
And then you come to a conclusion based on that. Or you could there are varying techniques of interpretation that judiciary all over the world adopts in order to reach conclusions.
Right.
So if you're talking about like criminal cases, yes, if you know that your client has done something wrong, and if you're certain, and if you're defending such a person, yes, there's a moral guilt, but as per the law, even a criminal has a right to be represented. Reason being that what if that person hasn't committed the crime? And if you're not giving him the right to fair trial, which is one of the fundamental rights enshrined in the Constitution of Pakistan, you're denying a person access to legal system. So us lawyers, we don't look at the situation in such a gray, black and white manner that person is guilty or the person is not. That's something for the court to decide. Our job, our profession is to defend someone and lay forward the laws. Like this is what the law is, and this is the interpretation that you can adopt based on these laws that are applicable on the situation.
Makes sense.
But whatever is decided by the court. And there is a legal maxim that you are not guilty until and unless proven to be guilty, right? So therefore, a lot of people even if there's a single FIR on someone, people automatically assume that the person is a criminal, right? There's a difference between being convicted and being accused. So the person against whom the FIR has been registered is accused of doing something.
Yes.
There's a proper trial that the person has to go through. There's a proper legal channel that the person has to go through in order to establish whether he has committed that crime or not. So I asked all the listeners to not jump conclusions right away, because that's where the courts come in to determine the guilt of a person. So right away, if there's an allegation against someone, all of us automatically assume the person has committed this crime. But we have no clue. The evidence has not been done. The trial is still pending. How can we reach a judgment or a conclusion before the court does? So that's a problem that I face a lot, that I see a lot, that I come across a lot in the society. Automatically, people reaching judgments against someone, like assuming somebody to be guilty of a certain crime when it hasn't been proved in the court.
And then, in extreme cases, they actually take the law in their own hands and they do something that, there are many examples where people actually shoot the other person, or just because he was accused, they go to drastic measures instead of letting the law.
Okay, shooting the other person. Now the thing is, even if a person shoots somebody else,
that's irrespective of anything, right?
Right away is not a criminal, because there are defenses. Defenses to a crime also. Yeah. It could be automatism. It could be self-defense. It could be coercion. It could be blackmailing. It could be somebody else forcing him to act in a certain way. So there's so many possibilities, legal possibilities that exist.
No, so I'm actually talking about in case someone has been accused of something. Yeah. Right, something.
It's just is this an accused person?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
And the other person actually says, no, since he's been accused, he's probably guilty, or he definitely is guilty, and he actually goes and shoots him for some kind of moral reason that only he's privy to, or he has made up in his mind. That is something what I'm talking about.
That is against the law, right?
Exactly.
That's why we have this system, and we have the courts, we have the government, we have these institutions to sort of do the investigation and determine the guilt. So no person is allowed to take the law in his own hands, no matter what the religious beliefs or moral beliefs or whatever the situation is.
Exactly. But Hassan, and this is something that I actually failed to answer. We say that institutions are meant to actually do this. But on some fundamental level, I mean, whose responsibility is it to actually make the people understand that this is the institute's responsibility to do it? And so, because the
Okay.
discussion that we're having right now, it is like people take it into their hands, they start being judgmental. And I mean, even in Islam, Islam says it actually gives out that signal or message that you have to be temperate. You have to be in the middle path. Don't be an extremist on any side. So, whose responsibility is to actually impart that in the person?
Okay, so as long as the knowledge of the law goes, ignorance of law is not an excuse in the court,
True.
right?
Ignorance for anything is not an excuse.
100%. Like if you don't know the laws
Yeah.
and you still act in a certain way that goes against the laws, you're still guilty.
True.
And you've done something which is illegal, irrespective of the fact whether you had the knowledge or not. Abroad, access to law, access to legal knowledge is very accessible for all sorts of people, for all classes. And they take an active part in disseminating legal information, informing people what their legal rights are. Unfortunately, in Pakistan, we haven't gotten to the point where pretty much everyone has this awareness, everybody knows what the laws are, because we don't have such a system yet. But then again, everybody can sit down and criticize things, but very less people come forward and take an initiative to eliminate the problem that exists within the society.
Within society.
So that's what we're trying to do. As being a lawyer, it's easy to make money, right? It's easy to work for money. But like when the other day I was sitting with someone, he's like, "Isn't this a problem for you?" I was like, "What's the problem for me? That you're a lawyer with the heart, right?" Because lawyers are considered to be brutal
Exactly.
and like dishonest, as you already said,
Yeah.
liars
Yeah.
because they lie to get their to get things
Yeah,
done their
exactly.
way and all that. Not all of us,
No.
right? Like obviously everywhere, there are good people, there are bad people, but that's something that I'm trying to change in this society because they say like if you want to change things, you have to get into the things and you have to make the change happen in order for the shift to take place. So that's what we're doing on our YouTube channel. We're doing podcasts with different lawyers, and we are trying to disseminate legal information, legal knowledge to the general public. Because if you have to defend yourself, you need to know of your rights. If you don't know your rights, obviously you can't stand up for them and basically fight for them.
So, in the just a little bit on the podcast,
Yeah.
what kind of content do you cover? What kind of target audience do you have in mind?
So, like, I am doing my podcast in Urdu
Right.
because I want to reach the general public.
Makes
Like, if a person who's making about like 20,000 a month, he can never afford a good lawyer and go through the lengthy process of litigation of fighting their cases for multiple years because obviously they cannot afford good lawyers, right? So, in our podcast, we are covering the basic issues that exist within the society, whether it's in terms of family law, whether it's in terms of property law,
Right.
whether it's guardianship, like pretty much anything, any problem that a person has that he cannot fight for, I will come in along with my team to grant them access to justice, to help them out
Right.
with the litigation process, because I'm in a position along with my team to make this happen. And it's more like giving back to the society, right? All of us, we take from the society, take,
Yeah,
right?
sure.
But we have to become those people that are giving back to the society as well. Like, right now, 100% there's so many other people doing the same thing also. I would request more people to come forward and engage in such initiatives that can empower the underprivileged and the poor people in the society.
Good. I mean, that's a great initiative. So, how do you actually, or how do people reach out to you? Do you identify people? What's the process like?
So far, like it's a very recent initiative. So I'm trying to establish an entire system. So far, I've been taking pro bono cases, but those pro bono cases have been through personal contacts.
Okay.
I went on YouTube. I have given out the information that if you know anyone that is in need of legal help, contact us or give our number to them,
Right.
or somehow make them reach us. So I've told all my friends. I've posted it on Facebook. I've posted it on my YouTube channel. So
Right.
anybody that you know of, whether it's your driver, it's your maid, somebody in your neighborhood who is not rich enough to have access to the legal system, we will please contact us, please reach us, and we will try to help them out as much as we can, provided that they fulfill our criteria, that they make a certain amount of money, which is not substantial enough to kind of like, have access to the legal system.
And it applies to any type of issue that they may have.
100%, 100%, 100%.
Perfect. So just circling back to making money part of it, or
Yeah.
taking, not giving back. I'm an engineer, but there are two professions that I think they have the capacity or the capability to literally change lives because of the fact that it's instantly gratifying. It's medicine and then lawyers or law or legal or the legal profession. And why is that? Is because when you win a case, when you save someone's life as a doctor, as a lawyer, you get to see the reaction immediately. For engineers, I mean, we do our work in the back ends and we don't actually see or get to see that direct interaction. But somehow the irony is, and I've observed this, and again, I'm not putting you on the spot, but once lawyers and doctors, they reach a certain level, I mean, of course, you put in the effort, you put in the hours, of course, you deserve to make that much money or you deserve that prestige. Somewhere when you reach at that certain point, the downtrodden get left behind. They do not have access to that immaculate care or that immaculate representation that is their fundamental right as well. Why do you think that is? And I totally get the point that, of course, your rates. I mean, again, I'm not saying you as it's in the third person. You command a certain respect in the industry. You take certain cases, but then where do those people go?
That's the thing, right? It depends who you're representing. Law is so broad, right?
Right.
If you're doing taxation, like I do taxation, obviously I want to make money also. I want to survive.
And
I have a
everyone
certain
will, exactly.
lifestyle that
Nothing wrong with
I
that.
want to, and there's nothing wrong in doing that, right? So when I have like clients that are importers or that are companies and all that, obviously we charge them a lot because they have the pockets to afford that, right? But when as long as it's related to me, if I come across a person who is not capable of paying my fee, obviously I do it for them for free, because for me it's not all about making money. Because my mentor once said that Hassan, if you want to do well in this field, make yourself indispensable, and once you do that, money will follow. So money has never been my aim. My aim has been to do something for the people. My aim has been to establish myself as such a lawyer who can actually fight for people's rights and can actually get them justice. So it depends on what kind of values do you have and what kind of aims and motives you have that you're trying to achieve through your profession.
Right.
Even with engineers, it depends, right? Person to person. Some people work for money, some people work for the gratification that they get out of, as you said, when they help someone and they help a deserving person, get them out of a sticky situation. So that's the kind of gratification that is more important for me than money, because money is temporary, right?
Very true.
There'll be days you'll have way too much money, and there'll be days you won't have money. And then again, yes, when it comes to lawyers, initially we don't make that much money, but as time passes, as we establish ourselves, yes, we charge a lot. But then again, you can charge the people that have deep pockets. But if you come across every lawyer, I think it should be an obligation on the lawyers that if they're doing 10 cases privately, they should do at least 3 to 4 cases pro bono also, because that's where the balance comes in. And a lot of lawyers and a lot of firms are actually doing that. They take pro bono cases also. But I would encourage more people to come forward from my profession and do this kind of work also.
Rightly said. You also talked about education in this last question. I'm going to pick up on that because you're also teaching, right?
Yes.
If you had to pinpoint something that's specifically wrong with the legal education system of Pakistan, because I was actually going through this report, and I think it was from 2020, I guess 21, where the lawyers, the locally trained lawyers as well as the internationally trained lawyers, they went to court to get the GATT law revoked, right? Yes. Because they were saying that questions were coming up in the exam that were asking us about Pakistani law clauses that we had perhaps not read, or they were not extensively covered by professors and stuff. And then the court actually, or the legal system, made the case that, what are you talking about? This is something that you are actually going to be living in or working at, so you have to be aware of it.
Okay, so in Pakistan, you get lawyers that are locally graduated
Yeah.
from local colleges.
Local colleges.
Then you get lawyers from lumps, and then you have very minor fraction of lawyers that are foreignly like graduated, that are graduated from external universities. I understand the local lawyer's concern also because I myself I have been educated through an external degree. I teach an external degree also.
Right.
And then after doing my degree back then when I got the license there was no such requirement and right away after finishing my degree I was able to secure or get a license without appearing for the gap test
gap
and all
test,
that.
yeah.
But yes, this all happened like during my lifetime, like I've witnessed everything
Right.
and I know what happened. So their concern was that the lawyers who are studying in Pakistan, they have to go through a lengthy process
True.
of studying for 5 years before
True.
getting a degree. With external lawyers, it is not the same. We study for 3 years, and after that, we are able to practice within Pakistan. So that's where the discrepancy
Okay.
came in, and they were trying to eliminate that. So they were like, the standard should be the same for all sorts of lawyers. That's why they introduced these tests. But then again, when it comes to law, what we learn in our school is the interpretation of the law, analytical thinking, legal reasoning, how to apply different laws to different scenarios. So pretty much like even if you've done a foreign degree, if you've studied foreign laws, you open the book, you study Pakistani laws, it'll be pretty much the same thing because you have established that you have learned the terminology, legal terminology, you have this awareness because even in Pakistan all the laws are in English. No laws are in Urdu, right? Interpretation is also in English and the courts in the higher courts especially everything is in English. In the lower courts when it comes to criminal law, yes, it is in Urdu.
It's in Urdu.
Because the institution and the police and all that, but in most of the courts the official language is English. So if your base is strong, if you've done your research, if you've went through that lengthy process of studying different books and establishing your legal knowledge, then I don't think so it is a problem for anyone to study. Like if I go to England, I can study their laws. If I go
bar,
to
yeah,
America, I can open the books. If I pick up a field, I can sort of develop expertise in that. So,
Right.
so that's not an issue.
Makes sense. So, we're talking about law, and you said that most of our laws are in English, right? And then the other day, I was working in the energy sector, and we were talking about laying a transmission line and something. And there's a Telegraph Act from back in 1880s or something, and we're still using that. We actually built on that to make the NTDC law and NTDC Act and stuff, and NIPRA Act. And then the penal code, that was also like 1885 or 86, because when I was actually doing my research, I actually went deep into how the legal system is framed, and it's mostly taken from the Britishers. We have actually changed it over time, but it's still, the skeleton of it is the same, right? Is it in need of an overhaul? Is there...
Okay, so even if you talk about, when you talk about England, right? Before devolution, Scotland, Ireland,
yeah.
England
Yeah.
derived their validity of laws from the same
From the same
constitution, right?
yeah.
So whenever it comes to determining a validity of a certain law, that why is a certain bylaw valid? There's this criterion, there's this chains of validity that exist, right? So you say bylaw is valid because of the statute.
Because of the
about it.
statute, yeah.
Why do you say that? Why is the statute valid? You say because of the Constitution.
Constitution.
You say why is the Constitution valid? You say because of the Constitution before that,
Right.
and you keep on going, and you keep on going, and
trail,
you
yeah,
can
basically,
reach infinity.
Right.
But there are different jurists that take different stance towards the validity of the laws. So one of them is Kelsen, that believes in the fact that there comes a certain point where in your juristic thinking, you have to assume that automatically the Constitution is valid.
Really?
Yeah. It's a juristic, it's the validity of the Constitution itself is a juristic thinking.
Okay.
Juristic
Yeah,
thinking, it's an
yeah,
assumption. Because the question to you is, why do people follow laws?
Yeah.
There could be two incentives. Either it's a sanction, or you believe that laws are socially beneficial, therefore you have to benefit it. You have to follow the laws. Now, the minority within the society follows the laws because of fear of sanction.
The fear, yeah.
fear of sanction,
Yeah.
right? But the majority believes in the good that the
Inherent
law
goodness. Yeah, okay.
has, and they follow the law because of that, and they feel that it's their obligation to follow
Right.
the law. They're not obliged to follow the law. There's a difference between the terminology.
Hmm.
If you're using being obliged, that means that you don't have any other option. You have to follow it, because if you don't, some sort of like sanction will befall upon you, or some sort of like wrong will happen to you,
Right.
some sort of like punishment will be given to you.
Right.
But when you take it as an obligation to follow, there's this inherent morality that exists within the laws, within the social setting,
Right.
that makes you follow the law because you want to follow it.
Interesting.
Yeah,
That's a very interesting way of putting it.
yeah.
Huh. I am still wrapping my head around that, and no, that's a very valid point. And then I think I'm going to build on that, but I think we're going to take a quick song break so that we can actually, because I had a lot of questions that people wanted me to talk about, including why police, or how to handle if police stop us, blah blah blah. But we're going to come back to that. Let's break for a song. And you're not huge into songs, right, or music?
I try to be, but
You try to be?
yeah.
You're
Yeah.
a health freak. How do you do your health regime without background music?
I do background music, but there are people for me to play the music.
Oh, there's
And
people.
yeah. I have
So you
my
don't-
good, I have good friends.
Okay,
Because
okay.
when you're working out, like you have to make sure that everybody
Right.
is enjoying the music.
Right.
So my palette for music might not be as enjoyable for everyone.
everyone.
So I keep it like completely subjective and to myself.
I really doubt that a health guy's palette, I'm pretty sure it's going to be really upbeat.
Yeah,
Or it's
it depends.
augmentative. Right?
It depends, right?
Depends.
Depends on the situation,
Right.
depends on the setting, and
Perfect. Abdullah told me about Lean to 6.
Lean in 6.
Yeah, Lean and 6. We're going to talk about that right after the song. So the song that I'm going to play is actually in celebration of the 75th diplomatic ties with Netherlands. Pasuri, if you've heard
Pasuri,
of it.
yeah.
It's actually the English version of it.
nice.
So let's quickly play that, and we will be right back. Where is it? It's right here. So guys, enjoy, and we will be right back. If you missed the last 40 minutes, wow, it's already been 40 minutes. You missed a lot. But so Hassan, we are gonna quickly talk about stuff that we were talking to during the break, and I had to stop myself intentionally so as not to ruin the surprise. Lean and 6. What's the regime like? What's it all about?
Lean in 6 is basically something that provides the balance that I need in my life.
Right.
So fitness has been a very integral part of my journey.
Okay.
So like I got super sick back then, it's like years and years ago, and then my health like kind of depleted, and I wasn't that healthy back then. But then I started making change, like I started changing my life. I started like getting into workouts and all that. So it was the same time when I was becoming a lawyer that I got into fitness big time. And then it was something that provided the balance that I needed in my life to be focused, to be more disciplined about stuff, and to sort of like set targets and achieve them within the prescribed time that I've set for myself. So fitness was something that like anchored me and sort of like developed my base. So my basic purpose behind Lean in 6 was to sort of like extend that to the society also,
Right.
and to make that change happen like in the society too. So far I've been training from the past like 6-7 years.
Wow.
And I've
Okay.
trained pretty much like the entire city so far. I've done like
Good.
massive boot camps in Islamabad, and I have so many clients that have basically helped like transform from one aspect to
Right.
the other, like
Right.
where they would come to me with like weighing 120 kgs, bad eating habits, no discipline, no self-control, and all that. And then within 6 weeks, the
A big
transformation, like
transformation.
I get to witness that transformation from the other side. It's just amazing. And then how people turn out, and there's so many people that I've helped,
Right.
and it makes me feel so good about everything.
But do you follow up with those people?
100%.
Is there-
Those people are like my family. Like
Right.
they are, no matter where I meet them, no matter where they are, like there's this like connection that exists because you have trained them, right? And it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
I've done the 40-day challenge a couple of times, and then I do it on my own, and there are tides and flows, and I go back to my same old weight, I come back, and it's a cycle. There's no consistency with it, so
So like if somebody says that they can remain on the track 100% all the time,
you're lying.
it's not possible.
It's not
Like
possible, right?
us being humans, we
Right.
tend to deviate from the track. But
True.
as long as you have that realization, where you sort of like pull yourself, you put yourself together and then come back to the track and start following the regime that you're following. It's all good. Like,
Effort. It's all about
yeah,
effort.
it's
That
it's all
continuous
about
effort.
being consistent,
Consistent,
right?
yeah.
So like if you haven't been able to go to the gym every day, it's fine. Like, how many days did you do within a week?
Within a week, yeah.
So like if you did 3 days in a week, you haven't been able to do 5 days, it's still progress, right? Next
True.
week, try to do four. If not four, at least do three.
Yeah, true.
But you're remaining consistent that every week you're putting in that time. Because the thing is, no matter how much money you have, no matter what you have, you won't be able to enjoy it if you're not healthy.
If not healthy,
You will, the quality of life will not be as good,
True.
like, when you're not healthy.
True.
So
True.
it's an integral part. So you have to give some time to your body also, so that you're able to enjoy all the benefits,
All the benefits. True.
that you have
True.
sort of like achieved, or come forward to.
Definitely. Here. Yeah, you're completely right. So, quickly taking a 180, quality of life, and people actually gave me a couple of questions, a couple of topics to discuss, and we're going to do a rapid fire kind of round,
Okay,
and maybe you
okay.
can give me your quick legal
100%.
opinion on that. So, the first one, I'm just going to read off. Traffic police stops you, and they ask you for your card and stuff and license. But the other police, they're like nakas and stuff. And how do you deal with those? Do they have the jurisdiction to actually stop you, check for you, give you a warrant, give you a challan? This is something that actually confuses me as well. How should I deal with them?
Be very patient, be very respectful. They are doing their job, they're trying to protect you, and it's their task to sort of like, make the entire city secure. So if you talk to them in a very polite manner, if you respect them, obviously they won't have any incentive to jeopardize you, like, without any reason.
Right.
And even if there's something that you've done wrong, be calm about it. Like, if you think you have messed up big time, call a lawyer and, like, get in touch with your lawyer and try to get like access to good representation and get your lawyer to sort of like, go about the situation.
But do they have do they have the legal authority to give you a challan? The Naka police, not the
Naka
traffic
police, Naka police doesn't have the jurisdiction to do that. It's the traffic police, but mostly in situations there is traffic police nearby the Naka, so they get the traffic police warden to come in and sort of like give you the challan. But police itself doesn't have the
And in
capacity
case,
or jurisdiction to give the
They,
challan.
they don't, right?
Yeah.
So in such a situation, is it possible? I mean, can we call up traffic police that I'm going to call them up if they're not listening, if they're not around, and the Naka police wants to?
100%, because it's their jurisdiction.
Is it,
Absolutely,
right?
It's the traffic police's
Jurisdiction,
task
right?
to, yeah.
Nothing, no
Nothing to
second
do with
opinion
the
about
police.
it.
Yeah.
So the other one is, and this is something that really is personal. So and a friend of mine, and we were discussing this in the morning as well, that he was walking in F9 Park with his wife, and she was expecting, and then around 9 p.m. or something, I don't remember. And then a couple of these policemen came in, and they were like, "Kaun hai bhai? Who is this? Apna wo nikah show karo." All of those questions, and they were like really rough handling him. Again, what is the legal precedence for that, and how should?
So even like police, whatever they do has to be within the confines of the law. If they end up doing something that is ultra vires, that is beyond the powers that they have, obviously they can be reprimanded. You can initiate legal proceedings against those officers and all that,
Right.
as long as they have like breached their jurisdiction, they haven't followed the procedural laws in order to execute the arrest or the questioning or whatever like they're trying to do. So if there's something that's against the law that they have done, 110% you can take them to the courts and sort of like get justice.
But in such a situation where they actually demand you for a nikah, people don't necessarily carry a nikah with themselves.
Yes,
right?
100%.
So how do you deal with that situation? Because ultimately, some people feel like they want the money. That's all what they're looking for.
The thing is, like, we live in a very advanced society,
Right.
and now, like, in Islamabad especially, I think it has never happened to me, at least, or somebody
me,
that I
yeah,
know.
exactly, right.
Okay, Java police has come in and they're like, oh, give the nikah and prove the legitimacy of the relationship that you have. But if that's the case, if it happens to someone, I think we should go to the police station with them
Right.
and ask them, like, what is their reason behind, like, the stop and search or like the questioning and all that.
Right.
If they don't give a right answer, go to the nearest police station, call 1-5, and register your complaint against them. If they've harassed you or something, then you can register a complaint, and then the law has its own process, its own way to
Right.
sort of execute that.
Right. Trespassing of personal spaces. So, for example, if someone knocks at your home, like a police, they say that they are from the authorities, and they want to search your home. They have reasonable suspicion that you are carrying something, 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 but they do not have a warrant.
Without warrant, they cannot do so until and unless there is a magistrate with them that has come to the spot. If there's a magistrate with them, then automatically they will have the jurisdiction to search your
True.
house. If the magistrate is not with them, then they cannot do so. They have to get orders from the magistrate in order to search somebody's house, because it's one of the fundamental rights to have
Right.
privacy of life and all that.
Right. Okay, this other one, and this is something that we actually touched upon, that how half of the legal system that we have is in English and the other half is in Urdu, and why is it not? Why is there no symmetry to this?
This is a biggest dilemma that
Right.
us lawyers also face. So when it comes to criminal laws, because mostly it's from the police station and all that, the
Right.
complaints and everything is registered. The complaint and applications are submitted in a police station,
Right.
and sometimes it's the police officers that are writing the complaints, so they tend to write it in Urdu.
Urdu.
Reason being that obviously we don't have that much English education,
Right.
and people are not trained enough to execute everything in English. So when the base is in Urdu, then pretty much everything carries on in Urdu in the legal system also. But that's not the case in civil laws.
Okay.
Civil laws, mostly everything is in English. You wouldn't see anybody writing a civil
Like
petition
Urdu
or
variant
something
petition.
in Urdu. It's mostly in English. But when it comes to criminal laws, yes, that's the case.
Right. This one is really interesting, and honestly, I know there about the terms, but I don't really. Okay, but so there apparently the question is there are three laws in Pakistan: the Penal Code, the Sharia law, and the Jirga law. Uh, do you see that as an anomaly, because this is something that is perhaps not that common around the globe?
110%. Like most of the countries, their laws are secular.
Yeah.
But in the Muslim world, laws are driven, as I said earlier, like some people think that laws derive their essence or legality, validity from morals.
For morals, true.
So in our societies, in the Muslim world, the morality is driven from religion.
True.
So the Sharia law is basically the base upon which the laws have been construed
Structured,
upon,
yeah.
have been structured. So if there's anything in the constitution that is against the Sharia law, that's against the religious laws, it is not considered to be valid. It's not considered to be applicable because of the religious beliefs that we have, right?
Right.
So Sharia law is very much part of the law itself. So laws are not that secular in Pakistan. Obviously, when it comes to taxation, taxation is secular. When it comes to civil laws, they are secular because they're driven from the
They're
British
driven-
Constitution
exactly.
and all that. But when it comes to family law, when it comes to these guardianship rights, maintenance rights, right to divorce, marrying,
That's Sharia.
polygamy, and everything.
Yeah.
So Sharia is very
Sharia is
much part of it. And when coming to the third law, tribal,
Yeah. Jirga law.
Jirga law.
Jirga law.
So Jirga law is like a lot of places in Pakistan, they don't accept the legal system as it is. So they have developed their own parallel system
Right.
where they have this Jirga system where Vadera sits down and sort of
Makes
decides
the final decision.
disputes, right? So that's the
Perfect.
distinction between the two.
Right.
Between the three, actually.
Yeah. It's 5:53, and we have like 7 minutes. But there are two things that I actually want to cover, and the next 5 minutes or so, I'm going to actually ask you to, because I really love them. If people would actually join his YouTube page, this particular video on Article 110, I think it's a lifesaver, quite honestly. And if you could take like 3 or 4 minutes to give us the bullet points for basic human rights during time of arrest, or so some bullet points, so that, and then people can actually go and watch the complete video.
So I've already done a podcast on
Exactly.
this with my colleague Mubashir Najib Saab.
Exactly.
He is also a High Court lawyer. So we talk about the right to be represented by the counsel that you appoint. And then whenever there is an arrest obviously the law lays down these procedural elements that have to be fulfilled.
Right.
That the person needs to be told that why he has been arrested, and then he has to be given a chance to sort of like be represented by the counsel of his own choice. This is part of the right to fair trial thing, that everybody should have access to the legal system. Whether you're guilty or not, you have a right to be represented in the court of law.
Okay, and I guess my last question is, and since we were talking about what kind that you like action, and you're actually, and what I asked him during break was about whether if he is a corporate lawyer or not, or what's the difference, and maybe if you want to explain the difference between
Okay, the
corporate.
difference between so corporate law is mostly like in
Representing
terms
one-
of companies where
Yeah.
you're doing like in-house work, you're doing like documentation and all that, drafting stuff and everything. But I like the action. I like going to the courts. I like litigation.
Right.
I like the thrill of like representing someone in the court. So I am a litigation lawyer rather than a corporate lawyer. But then again, I take like taxation cases. I take civil cases.
So
and-
white collar crimes.
you could say. You could say. You could
So
say.
my follow-up question to that was all of the things that we actually saw in Suits or Boston Legal, or all of these like courtroom dramas. Is that really true?
I think it's over glorifying the
Is it?
system. Yeah.
Yeah, because
In the
all I
lower-
see. Yeah, please go.
In the lower courts, it's nothing like that. The courts room are not like that. But then again, it's being changed. Now the kachari is being moved from F8 to G10.
To G10, exactly.
So it'll be a proper judicial complex. So people have taken, seniors have taken an initiative to change that, because right now the kachari and the court system, and at least like to the extent of lower courts, is dire.
It's
like-
die, right?
Yeah.
Plus, you don't get to wear those cool suits. I've never seen.
If you wear those cool suits in the kachari, you'll ruin the suits. But in the higher courts, yes, it is like that, but not to that level as you see in the shows.
In the shows, yeah.
All that.
Of
It's
course,
like
they-
over glorifying.
they would over dramatize it,
Yeah.
and I guess to some extent it's justified because they actually want people to actually join the profession, and I think it's used as a tool for people to actually come into the field. I mean, I guess. But Hassan, there's so much that I actually want to talk about. So in terms of divorce law and then inheritance law, because there are a lot of misconceptions about this. But unfortunately, it's 5:56, and we are actually going to go for a live news break at 6. But I would want you to be back on the show. Would you be willing to come back?
100%. And then again, I am preparing videos on all these subjects.
Right.
So my next video is going to be on custody.
Right.
And then like videos after that will be on divorce, polygamy, dissolution
Perfect.
of marriage, like what are the different ways through which a marriage can be dissolved, and then khula, fasaq, and all that.
Right.
So like if you want to have the legal knowledge about this, please follow our channel. It's called Kanuni Hakook on YouTube. I have recently introduced this channel. I've recently launched this channel. I've posted like 2 podcasts so far, but we'll be posting more. And then I would love to come on this channel again and speak to the listeners once again.
And I just remembered, I think I have one final minute to put this in. You were also telling me about that you offer a degree, or you have this LMS thing where people can actually take courses. Can you just tell them?
So it's for foreign students. It's called tutorials. Where I take students from 89 countries, wherever the UOL external LLB honors degree is being offered, and I make them prepare their subjects within a very short time. So my expertise is crash courses. So a university would teach you the same subject in 1 year. I would do that in just like 2 to 3 months.
Wow.
So that's what I specialize.
And Pakistani people who actually do not have a formal education, can they still go through this?
100%
And then,
if you want to learn about the laws, because it's like laws of your own legal system. If you want to learn about Pakistani laws, then you can join our channel, subscribe to that. But if you want to take actual classes where you want to study for the foreign degree, then you can sign up for tutorials.
and my one final request is that please include climate law. Like I said before, climate law should be a part of the discussion and legal system.
100%. We'll take that
Perfect.
into consideration.
Thank you so much, Hassan, for being on the show. I really appreciate you being here, and this was eye-opening.
You're welcome, Wakas, and it was so much fun to be here on your show.
Thank you so very much. Guys, with that, we are going to conclude this session of Vibing with Vikas. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, take care of your loved ones. Remember, life is precious, so learn how to live it and love people that are around you, because you only get one chance to live it. And with that, we are going to sign off. Take care and Allah Hafiz.
Tell me why, and feast on sweet gossip supplies. I love him and hugging for no one else.